Exposed, my mother's shocking Thanksgiving snub led to an unexpected transformative moment. Jamie could feel the weight of disapproval hanging in the air like a dense fog. She had spent years fighting for a place in the culinary world, proving that her dreams weren't just a whimsical teenage fantasy. Yet, in the face of the upcoming Thanksgiving, that hard-won identity felt achingly fragile, teetering on the edge of her mother's relentless skepticism. The moment she decided to host the holiday feast was supposed to be a celebration, a way to bridge the gap between her past and present. Instead, it morphed into an emotional tightrope walk, one that threatened to unravel with each passing hour. The Thanksgiving table, which she so meticulously planned, was an embodiment of her grief and growth. Jamie had spent weeks curating a feast that paid homage to her grandmother's recipes: pumpkin sage soup, her grandmother's signature stuffing, and roasted Brussels sprouts with maple glaze. She envisioned her mother seated at the table, finally feeling proud. Yet, as Jamie stirred the broth in her cramped apartment kitchen, doubt seeped in. Would her mother ever see her as the accomplished sous chef she had become? Or would she always be the daughter chasing a dream deemed improbable? As she set the table, Jamie's mind raced with memories of teenage years spent waitressing in the small diner, where she juggled plates and orders while dreaming of Michelin stars. Those moments, rich with painstaking struggle, now felt like chains. Her mother's dismissive remarks echoed in her ears. Culinary dreams were frivolous distractions in contrast to the family's financial reality. But what Jamie craved was more than approval. She longed for validation from the very woman whose disapproval weighed heavily on her conscience. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jamie prepped the last dish, her heart thumping in anticipation. When she heard the familiar jingle of her mother's keys in the door, her stomach twisted. The moment her mother stepped into the room, there was a palpable shift. The Thanksgiving spirit she had so carefully orchestrated felt suffocated by the chill of her mother's presence. A single glance at the table, her vision for a familial revival sent plummeting dread through Jamie's veins. Her mother's face hardened as she surveyed the spread. "This isn't how a Thanksgiving dinner should be," she snapped, the bite of her words cutting deeper than any knife. The awkward silence that followed seemed to stretch into infinity. Jamie stood frozen, emotions swirling violently inside her. Humiliation and betrayal collided, igniting a storm of determination. She felt small, yet an unfamiliar resolve was brewing beneath her humiliation. Would she continue to bend in response to her mother's expectations or claim her culinary identity? That question loomed in her consciousness, the air thick with fragmented possibilities. What had once felt like a celebration now morphed into a battleground for acceptance. Would she confront the rift or let it deepen? In a moment that felt both liberating and terrifying, Jamie steeled herself, contemplating her own happiness against a backdrop of family history. Would this transformative moment unlock her true self, or would she submit once again to the weight of her mother's disapproval, spiraling back into the shadows of doubt? The sharpness of her mother's words still hung in the air, a haunting echo that rattled Jamie to her core. For a heartbeat, she felt as if time had frozen, the room dimmed, the sounds muffled. Jamie's dreams, intricately woven through years of hard work and sacrifice, felt susceptible to the weight of one moment. But as the silence morphed into an unbearable tension, something ignited within her. "Mom," Jamie's voice emerged, steady yet charged with an urgency she had not summoned before. "This is how it's supposed to be. This is my Thanksgiving." The walls of her apartment became a canvas for her assertion. Jamie could see the flicker of surprise in her mother's eyes, battling with the familiar skepticism that always clung like a shroud at family gatherings. For once, she wasn't ready to back down. This dinner with flavors of nostalgia and ambition was not just food, it was her declaration of independence. Your dreams are unrealistic, her mother retorted, but there was a vulnerability lurking beneath the surface of her words. Jamie heard the raw fear of a mother who had worked tirelessly to provide, a fear that still governed her perception. Yet, Jamie was no longer the girl hiding behind expectation. Maybe they are, she shot back, each word a deliberate weight to hold. But they're mine. The table she crafted was more than just a feast, it symbolized the risks taken, the hours spent honing her craft in bustling kitchens, and the quiet triumphs that constituted her journey. Jamie grasped the edge of the table, feeling grounded in her truth. As the steam rose from her grandmother's recipes, it carried the warmth of her heritage, but also the heat of her ambition. This was her culinary voice, waiting to be acknowledged. Why can't you just support me? The question burst from her lips, raw and unfiltered. It lingered in the air, a challenge and an invitation. Her mother softened, the rigidity in her shoulders faltering slightly. I don't understand this life you've chosen, she admitted, a crack visible in her tough exterior. You could have a stable job. Stable? Is that what you want for me? Jamie felt a swell of defiance surge within her, propelling her forward. I don't want stability if it means relinquishing my passion. I want to learn and grow, to create. For the first time, Jamie saw the flicker of something she hadn't expected, a glimmer of understanding in her mother's gaze. The breach between them, while old and heavily layered, began to shift with the gravity of Jamie's words. Could she truly reconstruct their relationship over one Thanksgiving dinner? Moments passed, and Jamie had a sudden realization. Her culinary journey had been one fraught with adversities, not just within the kitchen, but also in her own subconscious battles against self-doubt, molded by her mother's expectations. That revelation was profound, she hadn't perceived the extent to which her mother's limitations formed an invisible barrier. Determined to navigate this new terrain, Jamie prompted herself to embrace this dialogue as a partnership rather than a fight. Let us cook together, she proposed suddenly. We can make it your way and my way. There's strength in collaboration. Her mother hesitated, caught between the image of the daughter she longed to protect and the burgeoning woman she needed to respect. Okay, came the tentative response, a crack in the armor that held their roles in rigid alignment. With initial trepidation dissolving, Jamie felt invigorated, ready to embrace a new chapter in her personal development, realizing that collaboration could transform ties once thought unbreakable. The kitchen filled with quiet laughter, the distinctive sounds of clattering pots replacing the earlier discord. Specters of resentment began to fade under the light of a newfound understanding. But just when Jamie thought the path toward healing was laid out before her, a sudden flare in her mother's voice brought her to a halt. What if I still think this is a waste of time? Jamie's heart raced. The dialogue had shifted, but not entirely. The warped expectations remained, concealed in lingering doubts. As she prepared to confront yet another critical moment in this transformative evening, Jamie felt both resolute and apprehensive. How would she address the lingering discontent that simmered beneath the surface? She crossed the threshold from timid daughter into a formidable force, ready to articulate her vision and expectations. Thus, her culinary expedition would not merely test her skills, but ignite the crucial conversation that had long been avoided. Would Jamie's passion reshape her mother's outlook entirely, or would the scars of doubt run deeper than she feared? Jamie inhaled deeply, steeling herself for the moment ahead. The warmth of the kitchen enveloped her, mingling with the unresolved tension that still bridged the space between her and her mother. This was not just about Thanksgiving dinner, it was about the future she envisioned for herself and the values beneath her mother's concerns. Mom, Jamie said, her voice quaking slightly but firm. I know you think this is a waste of time. But it's not just cooking for me, it's creating something meaningful. Every dish tells a story, and I want to be part of that narrative not just as your daughter, but as an aspiring chef. Her mother's brow furrowed, the words seemingly bouncing off a wall of skepticism. And who do you think cares about those stories? Can you pay the bills with stories? The challenge in her tone cut through the air like a knife. With each word from her mother, Jamie felt a surge of determination, pushing back against the tidal wave of doubt. It's not just about the money, and you know that, she replied. It's about passion, creativity, and the fulfillment that comes from following my dreams. The world isn't simply a checklist of stable jobs, Mom. Anger flared momentarily, a quick spark that Jamie had to tame. This was not the battlefield she had envisioned, and despite every fiber of her being wanting to defend her passion, Jamie knew she needed to channel her energy differently. I'm not saying I'll dismiss practicality. I just want you to see that I can have both success and fulfillment. Silence hung between them, an electric charge that vibrated in their shared space. Jamie's heart raced as she wondered whether her mother could truly grasp her perspective. There was a thin line, however, that Jamie felt compelled to tread on. The vulnerability of their relationship was surfacing like rich broth simmering on the stove. Do you really think I'm not mature enough to make this decision? She posed, observing her mother's rigid posture soften ever so slightly. All I ask is that you give me the chance to prove that I can make this work. The stirring of hope in Jamie's chest wrestled with the reality of her mother's steadfast beliefs. Perhaps there was a deeper layer here. Her mother wasn't just resistant to Jamie's ambitions, she was trying to shield her from potential disappointment drawn from her own past experiences. A flicker of her mother's earlier resolve faltered, leaving space for something unexpected to question. What if you fail? The admission was raw, exposing a chasm of fear, not just for herself but for Jamie too. Then I'll learn, Jamie replied, the truth flowing out easier than she expected. Every failure brings me one step closer to the success I crave. Every risk I take is a part of this journey. Gradually, the tension morphed into something different. As they stood among the clattering pots and simmering ingredients, Jamie instilled hope that their connection was evolving. What had once been a battle was now becoming a delicate dance of understanding and fear, each step bringing them closer yet revealing the layers of their individual fears and passions. Maybe I don't understand your world, but that doesn't mean I won't support you, her mother finally said, the words pouring forth hesitantly, but filled with grit. For the first time, Jamie sensed genuine willingness, an inclination toward acceptance rather than rebellion. They reached for a shared whisk, their fingers brushing a point of connection, and a promise exchanged that they could work towards mutual understanding. With renewed energy, Jamie plunged into a whirlwind of creativity, weaving her mother's traditions with her own modern twists. But deep within her, the question lingered, could this spark of understanding truly ignite a new outlook for her mother? As they measured, mixed, and laughed, Jamie couldn't shake a growing unease. Was embracing her passion truly enough to break through the walls of parental expectation? In that moment of culinary collaboration, reality hung in the balance. As the food began to take form, so did Jamie's inner resolve. She would need to confront deeper truths about herself and her aspirations. What would she discover as they moved beyond the surface of this Thanksgiving? Would her vision be powerful enough to transform her mother's perception, or was she standing on the edge of disillusionment? The taste of uncertainty thickened in Jamie's throat, signaling that the journey ahead was just beginning, and shadows of doubt still loomed. With each whisk of the batter, Jamie felt an unsettling mix of elation and anxiety. The colors of the ingredients were vibrant, each hue reflecting the potential joy in her cooking journey. But with that joy came the creeping weight of doubt. Her mother's concession had felt monumental, it was a crack in the wall of resistance. Yet Jamie couldn't shake the nagging thought, what if it wasn't enough? As the sweet aroma of cinnamon wafted through the kitchen, Jamie considered the stakes. She wanted this Thanksgiving to be a turning point, a step toward her dreams of a culinary career. But would one dinner truly be influential enough to shift her mother's deep-seated beliefs? Can you pass me the nutmeg, please? She asked, trying to keep her tone light, though her heart was already racing ahead to the future. Sure, her mother replied, handing over the spice without a second thought, yet the shift in their dynamic only slightly lessened the tension in Jamie's chest. The dinner rolled along with a dose of laughter from the successes, the turkey that glistened under the glowing kitchen lights, her mother's hearty stuffing that tied it all together, and the pie that Jamie crafted with a bold twist. As the guests settled around the table, Jamie felt the creative sparks from earlier solidify into a tangible energy. This was her moment. But there was a shadow lurking in that brightness. what if they all hated her cooking? Jamie glanced quickly at her mother's face. Would her palate detect the influences of modern cuisine interwoven with cherished family recipes? Or worse, what if her efforts fell flat? Would her mother revert to the wall of skepticism if the food didn't resonate with her? As they began to serve dinner, Jamie noticed a familiar frown on her mother's lips when the roast turkey was presented, the colors transitioning into stark critiques within her mind. This was not just a meal, it was an open invitation for her mother to either embrace or dismiss Jamie's aspirations. "You've taken some risks, haven't you?" her mother said, an edge creeping into her tone, a reminder of their earlier struggles. "Every risk is a path to growth," Jamie countered, steadier now than when the kitchen skirmishes began. "Just like this dish, everything I create shows where I've been and where I want to go." Her mother's eyes narrowed for a second longer, as if weighing words spoken in the midst of scattered family banter. But Jamie didn't back down. The dinner was more than food, it was a declaration that Jamie was not interested in playing small. As dinner progressed, something unforeseen happened. Conversations flowed effortlessly, the ambience enveloped by warmth and laughter. The Thanksgiving spirit ignited, drawing smiles from her family. Tension washed away temporarily as they relished the flavors. Then, an unexpected moment arrived. Jamie's young cousin, a budding food enthusiast, leaned over and whispered to her, "Auntie Jamie, you should totally open a restaurant. This food is awesome." The word struck a chord, ringing in Jamie's ears with envy and delight. "Yeah." Another family member chimed in, "You're a natural." Instead of basking in the praise, a familiar doubt twisted in her gut like a tight coil. Was it all just a fleeting compliment? How could they know if she had the skills to sustain it in a professional kitchen? Just then, Jamie caught her mother's gaze, still measuring the room's reactions. For the first time, Jamie questioned not just her mother's view but her own. Was she ready to embrace that challenge? The moment had shifted her perspective. Success wasn't merely about getting approval from others but finding confidence within. "I want to try," she declared, surprising even herself. "I want to explore this path seriously, the good and the bad." In her mother's eyes, Jamie saw something new, an acknowledgement that began like hesitant acceptance but surged into pride. The manipulation of flavors on the plates before them took on new meaning. As the night wore on and goodbyes were exchanged, Jamie stood still, heart racing with the prospect of the future. The journey didn't seem so daunting now, but questions lingered. Was she really prepared to take that leap? Nestled in the warmth of their shared experience, Jamie made a commitment to herself. She needed to hone her skills, to apply for culinary school, and to find the strength to face whatever came next: criticisms, failures, or newfound triumphs. The house emptied, leaving only echoes of laughter sticking to the walls, a bittersweet reminder of acceptance and challenges ahead. Dishes scattered across the table mirrored the residual complexity of her emotions. Jamie felt the weight of the world shift from her shoulders. For the first time, the future felt magnetic and frightening. With newfound determination, she whispered into the quiet, "I'll do this, no matter what." As her dreams swirled in her mind, a new thought pierced through, aggressive yet invigorating. What would it take to pitch her culinary aspirations to a wider audience? The answer remained tantalizingly unclear, yet beckoning. The moment of truth loomed just ahead. Her vision began to crystallize, revealing the precipice where her ambitions waited. Would she step boldly into newfound possibilities, or falter in the face of fear? It was time to confront not only her aspirations but the naysayers who lurked beyond. In the days following Thanksgiving, Jamie found herself at a crossroads, the thrill of her revelation still echoing in the air like the remnants of cinnamon lingering in the kitchen. Each morning brought with it a fresh resolve to become more than just someone who cooked for familial approval. She envisioned herself in a bustling culinary school, arms immersed in the fragrant chaos of chefs with ambition. Yet, that image twisted into an intimidating shadow as doubt crept back in. She walked the familiar route to her part-time job at the local cafe, her heart racing with conflicting emotions. The tasseled apron hung heavily around her waist, a constant reminder of her current place in the world. With every step, she mentally rehearsed how to articulate her aspirations, a mixture of excitement and anxiety nagging at her. Once inside, the warmth from the kitchen enveloped her, the sounds of sizzles and clanking pans providing a soundtrack that grounded her. Yet, this atmosphere, which had once felt inviting, now served as a series of reminders of what she was striving to escape. Would she remain just another barista forever, taking orders instead of crafting her own culinary masterpieces? As the lunch rush hit, Jamie deftly navigated the counter, her movements automatic. Each latte she prepared echoed her internal struggle, frothy, creamy comfort served to customers while her aspirations simmered just beneath the surface. The laughter and chatter in the cafe felt distant, overshadowed by her internal dialogue. Today, they were merely witnesses to an identity she still struggled to embrace fully. Were they privy to the ambition smoldering inside her? Just as she completed another order, the cafe owner, Charlie, ambled over, an approving nod aimed her way. "You know, Jamie, you've got a knack for this. Ever thought about expanding your skills?" His casual tone struck a nerve as Jamie realized he saw potential she was still wrestling to acknowledge. "Actually, yes," she said, the words escaping before she could second-guess herself. "I want to apply to culinary school." The bold assertion hung in the air, charged with both pride and vulnerability. Charlie raised an eyebrow, genuinely intrigued. "That's no small step. What's holding you back?" The question struck deep. Jamie hesitated, grappling with her insecurities. Would her mother ever come around? Was she ready to step out on her own, leaving behind the safety of the cafe? "I don't know if I'm good enough. What if I fail?" His expression softened, understanding her fears. "But what if you don't?" He countered gently. "You have to weigh the risks. Every chef has a moment where they question their abilities. It's part of the journey." His words sank in, stirring something within her, a courage she hadn't realized had been waiting to erupt. Jamie understood then that embracing this vulnerability was necessary. Fear wouldn't just vanish in pursuit of her dreams. She needed to confront it head-on. The remainder of her shift flew by. Between orders, Jamie explored the mechanics of her daydreams, what culinary school would be like, the competitive spirit of the kitchen, the adrenaline rush of cooking for a crowd. Each thought fueled her resolve. Yet, alongside that excitement was an undeniable dread, the nagging question haunting her: what would her mother's response be if she were to venture down this path? Would Jamie be seen merely as a hopeful dreamer, or could she finally become the chef she aspired to be? That evening, she sat at the kitchen table, the remnants of her Thanksgiving feast still evoking mixed emotions in her mind. With pen poised above paper, she drafted an application. Her hand shook slightly at the thought of officially declaring her intention. The question now loomed larger than before: would she summon the courage to share her aspirations with her mother? Would she seek out the approval she craved, or would she forge ahead in defiance of her mother's skepticism? The clock ticked steadily, the seconds stretching into an eternity as Jamie mulled over her next move. She realized that reaching out to culinary schools was just as significant as confronting her fears about those who would doubt her. With a deep breath, she took the first step, a bold announcement section within her application. "I am striving to amplify not just my cooking skills, but my identity as a chef who confidently embraces growth." As she filled in the details of her journey thus far, a fire ignited within her, illuminating the path forward. The moment of truth appeared to be drawing nearer. Her future, though fraught with uncertainty, was finally within reach. But just as she serviced her ambition with bright strokes on paper, a sudden realization gripped her. How could she even begin to shape her future without confronting the opinions of her mother? With her heart pounding, Jamie knew she was standing on the brink of a pivotal decision. Would this journey demand the confrontation she feared? Or could she somehow navigate the complexities of ambition and familial ties without sacrificing her dreams? The answers lay ahead, hidden beneath layers waiting to be uncovered. Jamie awoke the next morning, a chill in the air that matched her own trepidation. A patch of sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of the previous night's revelatory writing. Today was not just another day. It was one of decision and confrontation, marking the threshold between her past limits and her hopeful ambition. The breakfast routine felt mundane, each action performed with mechanical precision. She poured the coffee, her thoughts racing over the confrontation she envisioned with her mother. How would she broach the topic? The weight of the words sat heavily in her throat. The kitchen felt both welcoming and suffocating, a battleground for her heart's desires and her mother's expectations. As she stirred the pot of oatmeal, Jamie's mind wandered to culinary school. Vivid images of her future danced in the corners of her consciousness, slicing vegetables with speed, plating dishes with care, receiving applause from proud patrons. Each mental snapshot momentarily buoyed her spirit, but doubt quickly clouded her excitement. What if she wasn't ready for the challenge? What if failure was waiting just around the corner? She steeled herself for what lay ahead, reminding herself that every accomplished chef had faced similar fears. She had to break free from the confines of her insecurities if she wanted to embrace her true calling. Wasn't this journey about growth? The irony wasn't lost on her. She sought to grow, yet feared the very catalyst that could propel her, the disapproval that loomed from her mother. Post-breakfast, Jamie decided it was now or never. She walked into the living room, her palms sweaty against the rough fabric of her jeans. Her mother sat curled on the couch, immersed in a magazine as if it were an escape hatch from the real world. Jamie took a deep breath. "Mom, can we talk?" The words caught her mother's attention, pulling her out of her reverie. "Sure, honey. What's up?" A casual tone laced with underlying curiosity, a tone that both grounded and unnerved Jamie. "I've been thinking a lot about my future," Jamie started, her voice steady but tremoring with unspent energy. "I want to apply to culinary school." Silence fell like a heavy curtain between them, the air crackling with tension. Jamie's heart raced, knowing she was standing at the precipice of her fears. Her mother set down the magazine, eyebrows raised, and Jamie could almost see the gears turning. "What? You want to be a cook?" Her mother's voice fluctuated between disbelief and concern. "But that's not a real job, Jamie. It's not secure. You need to think practically." "Mom, this is what I want," Jamie countered, each word gaining strength. "I want to cook, to create. I love it. This isn't just a hobby for me." Her mother's expression shifted, the skepticism painfully evident. "You're a barista, Jamie. This is comfortable for you. Why would you throw that away for something so risky?" The familiar tug-of-war between her mother's practicality and Jamie's aspirations erupted in the living room. It was a conversation that felt deeply personal, laden with years of conflict. Jamie gripped the edge of the couch, her knuckles turning white. "Because I'm not content with comfortable, Mom. I want to challenge myself. I want to be more than just this." Jamie gestured to the café apron hanging in her closet, an emblem of her current existence. Another long beat of silence passed. Jamie could see the conflict in her mother's eyes, an amalgam of love and fear colliding. "But what if you fail? What if it doesn't work out?" With her heart racing, Jamie faced her mother with open conviction. "What if it does work out? What if I succeed?" "Mom, I'll never know unless I try. Every part of me is pushing towards this, and I have to find out who I could be." As the words left her mouth, something shifted in the atmosphere. Jamie could feel the gravity of her own declaration settling in, and for the first time, she sensed a flicker of understanding in her mother's gaze. But before either of them could break the rising tension, Jamie's phone buzzed on the coffee table, an email notification from the culinary school. She glanced at her mother, their unspoken thoughts hanging unusually heavy in the air, and hesitated. Everything depended on this moment. Was it too soon to check, or could it be the catalyst that transformed the conversation into clarity? With an electric mix of anticipation and dread coursing through her, she reached for the device. The moment of truth hovered perilously close. Would her personal ambitions find validation, or would it merely deepen the divide between them? Jamie's fingers trembled slightly as she grasped her phone, a vessel of hope and anxiety alike. The screen flickered to life, the notification from the culinary school gleaming like a beacon. She stole a glance at her mother, who seemed to be holding her breath, and in that split second, Jamie could feel the weight of expectations binding them. She swiped at the screen, her heart pounding in her chest. The email unfurled in front of her, the words both intimidating and exhilarating. Thank you for your application. We're excited to let you know that your application for the next semester has been accepted. The joy surged through her, an intoxicating high that nearly drowned out the voice of doubt lurking in the back of her mind. Yet, juxtaposed against this exhilaration was the palpable anxiety shimmering between mother and daughter. Jamie raised her eyes, searching for a reaction on her mother's face. Her mother's features tightened, a subtle shift from disbelief to a new kind of apprehension. Accepted? Just like that? She asked, her voice a mix of incredulity and concern. You really think you can do this? I just got the acceptance email. Jamie replied, unable to mask the excitement in her words. This is what I've wanted. Mom, I can't explain how ready I feel. Yet even as she spoke, Jamie felt the initial elation begin to ebb, replaced by a swell of trepidation. What if the elation was merely a fleeting moment? What if she couldn't handle the rigorous life of culinary school? But the thought both frightened and fired her resolve. She could no longer entertain the whispers of self-doubt. This was her opportunity to claim her narrative. You haven't even thought this through, her mother interjected, the tension thickening once more. Culinary school is demanding. It's not like serving coffee. This is about your future. Are you ready for that? Jamie felt the focus sharpening, pivoting on the crossroad of ambition and fear. Yes, insecure as it feels. I've thought about nothing else. I need to push past this fear, Mom. I want to prove to myself that I can do this. Her mother, internal conflict playing out in her expression, took a deep breath. Jamie could almost see the gears turning, the protection instinct colliding with the recognition of Jamie's burgeoning independence. Finally, with a resigned sigh, her mother said, You might find this harder than you think. I know, Jamie countered, her voice steadying, but isn't that the point? To grow? To carve my own path? The words hung in the air, charged with an authenticity she hadn't felt before. Jamie turned back to her phone, the acceptance email shimmering on the screen like a promise. In that moment, an undeniable truth emerged: the acceptance wasn't just a notification, it was a declaration of her commitment to herself. I need your support, Mom, she added, the vulnerability weaving through her voice. Without that, I don't know if I can manage this. There was a beat of silence, and Jamie searched her mother's gaze for a foothold, a bridge to understanding. She watched the complexity of emotions flicker across her mother's face: fear, love, and an unwelcome realization. Okay, Jamie, her mother finally relented, her tone softer. You've made up your mind, and maybe I need to trust that you know what you're doing. If this is truly what you want, I will support you. The relief washed over Jamie, intertwined with exhilaration, transforming the room's ambience from confrontation to tentative acceptance. They were still standing on wobbly ground, but in that moment, they had forged a new understanding. Jamie felt a burgeoning sense of agency, a slow ember igniting. As the conversation wound down, Jamie's thoughts drifted back to her future: not just culinary school, but the life and challenges beyond it. What other new horizons awaited her? What would it take to truly embrace her ambitions without reservation? Facing her mother, she resolved to see the journey through to completion, not merely as a student in culinary school, but as a woman redefining her own identity. Fate had placed her on this path, but it was her choice alone to see where it led. Just then, a message pinged in her notifications: a prestigious local restaurant was offering an internship, a stepping stone she envisioned learning from. Her heart raced anew, the sense of urgency bubbling inside her once again. This could be my next step, she thought, excitement mingling with the echoes of her earlier conversation. The time to act was now, but would her determination carry her through the challenges that lay ahead? The aroma of simmering garlic and onions filled Jamie's small kitchen, a prelude to the chaos that was about to unfold. The internship application loomed like an anxious specter in her mind, demanding her attention. It was the perfect opportunity, a chance to step into the culinary world she had dreamt about. Yet, beneath the surface of excitement, uncertainty churned. She stood in front of her kitchen counter, contemplating the array of ingredients as if they were tokens of her potential. This wasn't just about food, it was a test of her commitment to her new path. If I can handle this, I can handle culinary school, she whispered to herself, trying to quiet the nagging doubts. With determination steering her hands, she chopped vegetables with rhythmic precision. Each slice felt like a moment reclaimed from hesitation. She could feel her confidence swell, ignited by the vision of herself crafting dishes that could finally showcase her culinary sensibilities. Yet, that spark was quickly extinguished as she remembered her mother's lingering doubts. Can I really do this? She thought, a question circling her mind like an uninvited guest. She paused, knife hovering above a carrot. What would it take for her to convince herself, or anyone else for that matter, that she was more than just a hopeful dreamer? The truth hit her like an unexpected splash of cold water, freezing her motions. The voice of self-doubt wasn't merely a whisper anymore, it echoed loudly, a nagging reminder of the implications of her ambition. What if I fail? What if I get in over my head? The questions gnawed at her resolve, and a heaviness settled in her stomach. Pushing through, she regrouped. This is a chance to show what I can do, she reinforced, resuming her chopping. Sweat beaded on her forehead, largely due to the heat but also the pressure she placed upon herself. Perfection felt like an unattainable mirage right now. Her phone chimed again, a distraction that sent her focused thoughts spiraling. It was a message from Marcus, one of her friends from high school who had taken the culinary plunge before her. How's it going? Are you ready for the internship? Remember, it's all about growth, not perfection. His words, meant to be encouraging, sent tremors through her confidence. Was this a case of misguided optimism, or was there a nugget of truth hidden within? More importantly, where was her own voice amidst these conversations, her own essence in the pursuit of her dream? As she swung the knife a little more firmly, the pressure of expectations sulking in the background made her mental processes more vivid. She had to find clarity. What would I want to tell myself if I were my own mentor right now? The thoughts reiterated in her mind like a syntax mantra. I would say, own your journey, Jamie. That's where the magic happens. The internal coach emerging within her struck a chord. Perhaps growth did indeed lie in imperfection and resilience. Wasn't every great chef molded through trial and error? Suddenly, inspiration coursed through her when the familiar sounds of sizzle and pop filled the air as she threw minced spices into the heated oil, her first step toward her own burgeoning confidence. Each sound, each flavor blended together not just in her dish but in her determination to dare take the first step into the culinary world. The essay demanding her personal statement for the internship flickered through her mind, and the words seemed to coalesce into focus. She feverishly jotted down notes on a notepad, determined to channel her thoughts and put them into the application. The enormity of this moment was palpable. It was not merely a statement of intent but a manifesto beckoning her into a new world of flavors and techniques. As she submitted the application, Jamie felt both liberated and terrified. There was no safety net now. She had to confront her insecurities head-on. It was more than just an application, it was a promise to herself that she wouldn't retreat back into self-doubt. But as the weight of her decision settled, an unexpected twist emerged in her path. An email notification popped up. The culinary school's orientation schedule had been sent. It outlined the first week's demands, including a rigorous cooking assignment. Could this be the defining moment where intention met execution? Jamie exhaled deeply, preparing to embrace the challenges ahead, yet an instinctive chill ran down her spine. The impression of what lay before her felt insurmountable. Would she rise to meet her tumultuous introduction into the world of culinary arts? Only time would tell, and the thrill of the unknown promised relentless tests of will. Taking a deep breath, she looked to the future, realizing she was on the verge of either unprecedented growth or unforeseen struggle. One path led to mastery, the other to resignation. And as she reviewed her notes, she felt the urgency to prepare for whatever awaited her, fierce determination forming within her bones. Would Jamie find the clarity to face not only the pressures of culinary school but also deeper issues lurking in her relationship with her ambitions? The answer was just a heartbeat away. The days sped by as Jamie immersed herself in the preparation for culinary school. The scheduled orientation loomed on the horizon, pulsating with anticipation and dread. Each morning, she woke early, fueled by the ambition that had ignited during her late-night culinary experiment. The familiar kitchen had transformed from a comforting haven into a battleground for her aspirations. She found herself diving deeper into recipes, experimenting with flavors, techniques, and plating. An ever-growing pile of cookbooks cluttered her workspace, each page becoming a vessel for both knowledge and fear. Doubts, too, lingered, they whispered beneath her determination, reminiscent of the loneliness she felt during moments of solitude. Her heart raced at the thought of not measuring up, of being judged against a backdrop of skilled peers. Despite the frenetic rhythm of her culinary practice, a creeping anxiety gnawed at her resolve. It wasn't merely the fear of the rigorous cooking assignments ahead, it was the innate sense of judgment from her family, a shadow in the periphery. "Mom always thought I wouldn't make it," she grumbled under her breath, remembering the dismissive tone that often dulled her ambitions. Why couldn't she shake the entitlement of an outsider's skepticism? The thought was a thorn embedded deep within her emotional psyche. While chopping herbs one evening, Jamie had an epiphany. She could only gain mastery over her craft as long as she embraced failure as an inherent part of the process. "It's just food," she muttered, feeling the knife glide through basil leaves with newfound conviction. In every mistake, there's a lesson. Each blade of herb she sliced felt like a step toward breaking free from external expectations. She envisioned being the chef she wanted to become rather than the reflection others saw. It was time to own her culinary narrative. The night before orientation, she prepared her mise en place meticulously, laying out her tools and ingredients with precision. The act itself became a ritual of transformation, each item on the counter symbolizing not just readiness, but growth. But as she wiped her hands on her apron, the familiar flutter of anxiety returned, settling again like a heavy cloak over her shoulders. She couldn't escape the thoughts of scrutiny from the instructors, the fellow students, and the silent but potent judgment of her mother. How do you measure success? She contemplated, eyes lost in the array of colors and textures before her. Her mind raced back to Marcus's message about growth. It spun around until she pinned it down. Success isn't merely an outcome but is defined through resilience and effort. Could she really redefine the parameters set by her family? In an impulsive twist of bravery, she picked up her phone and texted Marcus. What if growth feels like failure? Her thoughts tumbled into words, revealing a confusing mix of excitement and frustration. As she hit send, the message felt like a line cast into the unknown, a plea for connection amidst her internal chaos. His response came swiftly. It usually does. Don't forget the essence of the ingredients, including you. Own your story, Jamie. Remember, chefs are made, not born. The next morning, standing at the entrance of the culinary school felt surreal. Students mingled like seasoned vegetables waiting to be sautéed, their chatter echoing around her. She swallowed the swell of anxiety and stepped forward, each stride a small act of defiance against the voices that sought to diminish her. Today is just day one, she reminded herself. The only way is through. As the orientation began, Jamie prepared to absorb every bit of information, to make connections and learn fast. The first cooking assignment would test her knowledge and tenacity. Once the instructors entered, the air filled with formidable expectation. Jamie tightened her grip on her chef's knife, the steel a talisman meant for the challenges to come. Would she have the resolve to redefine her journey in a space filled with judgments and comparisons? The tension built palpably around her. Just before the assignments were announced, the head chef's voice cut through the din. Welcome, future chefs. He declared, excitement and authority intertwining. Prepare yourselves, today is not just about cooking, it's a trial by fire. His words ignited uncertainty and adrenaline within her, and the pulse of reality hit her squarely. What awaited was not merely an assignment, but a crucible that would unmistakably forge her future. With her heart racing in anticipation, Jamie closed her eyes briefly to steady herself, yet a question loomed larger than her now brightening ambition. Was she ready to confront the scrutiny of her past while tackling the daunting culinary challenges ahead? Only time would reveal what simmered within her heart, waiting to be unearthed. Jamie stood in front of the stainless steel work table, her heart pounding as she absorbed the hum of culinary anticipation swirling around her. Day one of culinary school felt like a baptism by fire, ingredients and tools lined up, each a promise waiting to be fulfilled. But this was more than just an exercise in technique, it was a reckoning with her identity and the perceptions that honeycombed her journey thus far. The head chef clapped his hands together, drawing Jamie's focus back to the task at hand. All right, chefs. Today you're going to create your signature dish, the one that tells the story of who you are as a cook. You'll have 2 hours. Get your minds racing and your hands moving. Suddenly, the previous anxieties flared up. What did she stand for? Could she capture her complex journey in a single plate? As she breathed in the crisp scent of fresh herbs wafting through the kitchen, a flicker of determination ignited within her. She wouldn't let fear dictate her performance, it was time to let her culinary voice ring loud and clear. With focus sharpening her senses, Jamie began selecting her ingredients. She envisioned a dish that encapsulated her growth, honoring her grandmother's traditional recipes while infusing her own modern flair. Rooting herself in her heritage, she decided on a twist on her grandmother's stuffing, incorporating roasted seasonal vegetables and fragrant spices that reflected both nostalgia and ambition. The memory of Thanksgiving washed over her, but instead of the weight of her mother's disapproval, it felt more like the warmth of acceptance. As she sliced, diced, and sautéed, Jamie felt a rhythm take hold, a dance between her hands and the ingredients, each movement transforming uncertainty into artistry. The kitchen filled with comfortingly familiar scents, evoking memories of laughter and love surrounding the family table. Jamie smiled, realizing she was not just conjuring dishes, she was reclaiming her identity. The tension that once coiled in her stomach eased as she plated her dish with care, embellishing it with a bright herb drizzle to create a visual story. Each element reflected a part of her journey, the grounding roots of family, the bold aspirations she had developed, and the flavorful risks she now embraced. "Time's up, chefs!" the head chef exclaimed, and in an instant, Jamie felt her pulse quicken again. Would her personal narrative resonate not only with the instructors but also within herself? As judges approached for tastings, Jamie's heart thrummed in her chest, a visceral reminder of the stakes she had awakened. Serving her dish, she laid bare not only her culinary skills but also her growth journey. "This is my grandmother's stuffing with a twist. It represents my heritage and the evolution of my culinary identity." Her conviction shone through. The head chef tasted her dish, and Jamie held her breath, vulnerable yet resolute. After a moment that felt suspended in time, a smile broke over his face. "Prodigious flavors, well balanced. You've woven your story beautifully into this dish," he praised, and Jamie felt the warmth of validation flood through her. She had not just created a meal, she had crafted a statement. As critiques continued throughout the class, Jamie sat taller with each positive remark. That unmistakable shift she had long sought with her mother seemed to harmonize with her interaction at school. Yes, she was remembering the emotional tug of past dinners, but today, she had woven those memories into a dish that was unequivocally her own. Even as the day concluded, Jamie's thoughts swirled with possibilities. With each passing moment in culinary class, she began innately displaying renewed confidence and recognized competence that transcended familial expectations. Jamie was not simply a hopeful dreamer, she was rising to meet the challenge of her aspirations, equipped with new skills and fortified ambition. Later, once back in her apartment, she reflected on the day's triumph. Culinary school was no longer just about creating dishes, it was about asserting herself in the world, a realm where she would express her truth and stake her claim. Understanding her culinary language deepened, she had begun the journey of introduction, not just to her craft, but to who she wanted to become. Jamie picked up her phone, opening the trending culinary applications section. She discovered several internships and thought of the restaurant where she had coveted an opportunity. They were all now possible avenues, spotlighting her newfound courage to thrive despite the fear of failure. The realization washed over her, she held the key to her success, and today was merely the beginning. With excitement mingling with an acute sense of purpose, Jamie composed a message to her mother, one that would herald her journey but also bolster her resolve. Mom, I know you've worried about me pursuing cooking, but I'm not just dreaming anymore, I'm taking actionable steps towards my goals. I've found my voice. I hope you see that. Jamie hit send, releasing the weight of her expectations. She was ready to conquer whatever challenges lay ahead, deeply anchored in her burgeoning culinary identity. She had emerged from her fears, not merely overcoming but transforming, standing proudly on the precipice of her future. This moment of realization filled her with unshakable confidence. She had achieved a step towards the artistry and insight required of a chef, signaling a fresh start, adorned with flavors of her journey. Jamie knew now that she was well prepared to embrace the challenges beyond the kitchen doors. Now, as the sun dipped into twilight, she unleashed a simmering excitement for what was to come. She had learned to carve out her identity and destiny amidst doubt. Jamie had finally become the chef she had always aspired to be. This is your moment to embrace your own journey, to strive for growth amidst challenges and uncertainty. Don't let fear stand in your way. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, your perspectives matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. Together, let's conquer every growth story with resolve. Don't wait even one more second to share.